Bruno Gollnisch さん、どうぞお願いします。
どうもありがとうございました。
よろしくお願いします。
Yes, with Adam, we prefer to speak Japanese because my Japanese is far better than my English, as you will, ladies and gentlemen, understand very soon. Well, I would like first to express my very heartful and warm thanks. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here in Trafalgar Club, although I must confess that as a reserve French Navy officer, I don't know how to translate my rank in English. I think it's frigate captain or something like that, which is not bad for an amateur, by the way. It was a bit painful, but thanks the divine providence gave me what is necessary to make it softer. Lord Nelson's run. You know the joke about the Frenchman who comes for the first time in Great Britain, and afterwards he goes back home, and he says, well, these people, they are very nice, but a little bit strange, because they always give to the famous places names of defeat, such as Trafalgar Square, Waterloo Station, and so on. Well, by the way, about Admiral Nelson, I was told when I was a young ensign in the French Navy that the black tie that is now part of our uniform is a tradition of the French Navy, and because it was put by French officers after the defeat of Trafalgar, mourning for the death of Admiral Nelson. And I find this very, very much interesting because it shows that in spite of the conflicts that have opposed sometimes European nations, there was respect, there was a common sense of politeness, which is an essential part of civilization. And I would like to go a bit further. Why did this war occur? Why did you go to war against Napoleon, against Adolf Hitler, and so on? It was because you sticked on this very important, essential principle of European politics, that is what the Latins call the justum potentiae equilibrium, the fair balance of power. The fact that there cannot be a single master on Europe, that each nation has to be independent and not submitted to another larger or bigger. And when, as Adam knows, I guess, when the first samurai, after the reopening of Japan, came to Europe in the 1860s, they were very astonished by that, to find that, well, in European countries, all countries obey to a common law of nations which results in the fact that a small Portugal lies quite peacefully aside of the more powerful and larger Spain without war, because in their opinion, these warriors, if a clan was more powerful than the neighbor, it was time to attack the neighbor and to annex it. And this was not the case in Europe. And they believe in the universal law of the 10,000 nations. which is the jus gentium of the former Latin jurists, le droit des gens européens, that we call today international law, with many consequences. Freedom of nations, freedom of the people to determine their own politics, to choose their leaders, and if necessary, to revoke them. Equality among ambassadors, among sovereigns, equal access to the sea, equal access to the wealth of the world, and namely to the New World, for example. This is undoubtedly a very important part of the European civilization, because Europe, if you consider geography, is nothing more than a small peninsula at the end of the enormous Asiatic continent. But in fact, it has been the seat of the most brilliant civilizations ever seen in the world, and this mainly because of the freedom that the European nations enjoyed. All this is now destroyed, under destruction, by what we call, to make things easier to understand, globalism. Globalism is not only the fact that communications keep people getting closer together. Globalism is a political project, and we see it in European Union, which is European only by name. The dogma of European Union is the free trade, the free entrance of persons, of goods, of capitals, that is supposed to bring wealth and welfare to everybody, and which in fact brings mainly poverty, maybe wealth to a happy few, but poverty to the largest number of persons and workers. Freedom of entrance of goods, for example. That means that the British worker, that the French worker has to compete with the Chinese worker. In my country, for example, according to the legal requirements, the French worker works 35 hours per week. But as our colleague Martinez used to say, the Chinese worker, he sleeps 35 hours per week, and the rest of the time he works. And he works for 10 times, 20 times less than the European worker. How is it possible to compete in these conditions? And as it is a communist country, that is a dictatorship, there are no pension allowance, there are no social welfare, there are no possibility to become a member of a free trade union, not to go to strike, not even to ask for a better life. So that this communist country has become the paradise of the most cynical capitalism. And it is not only the British worker or the French worker who has to compete with the Chinese worker, but tomorrow, for example, the British or French or German engineer with the Indian engineer, and so on. And you know the results. The result, that is our business, completely our industries, either going bankruptcy, falling down, or going abroad to benefit from this unfair competition. Freedom of capitals, that is the possibility for foreign capitals. I have nothing personally against American pension funds, for example, but when they come and when they buy one of the few remnants of our industries, they are not indebted to European workers, and their duty is not to maintain the level of employment in our countries. Their duty is to realize the quickest will be the best, the most important profit, even if it requires to sell the business and afterwards to stop it. Freedom of for entrance of persons. It means a huge immigration policy that is destroying our countries, our national identities, by a reverse colonization of mass of people who come because they know that we still have some prosperity and we would like to enjoy it, but we have no recognition, we do not share in most cases our values, our civilization, and we have now foreign settlements. I don't know about your country, but mine, where even the police, even the fire brigade, even the medical doctors, even the bus drivers are not safe if they get in. That is a very dangerous situation. It's exactly what Karl Marx wanted to do. Karl Marx, contrary to all other socialists, was in free trade. He said, we have to be in order of completely free trade because this liberalism in foreign business destroys national solidarities, destroys traditional values, destroys the families, and in this way it will haste the coming of the revolution. And we don't want the revolution. We want to defend traditional values. That is why we want to protect our countries. But it is also not only in the field of economics that this globalization is destroying our countries, is destroying even our souls by destroying family values. We will have it this week, in Strasbourg, for example, the gender theory. No difference between male and female at all. It's just sex is a mere choice. It's not given by God, not given by birth, not given by nature. And the constant promotion of what they call the LGBT, for example, lesbian, gay, bi, and trans sexuality. I will give you an example. Recently, a report was adopted last session to allow people from Kosovo to come to Europe, as if there were not enough Albanian mafia in our countries, without requirement of a passport, but under the condition that the government of Kosovo be kind to the LGBT. I don't know what the Kosovo would think about it. Well, it's destroying family values, spiritual values. And in this field, the resistance of British National Party is much stronger than, much more coherent than any other. Yes, there are movements of resistance all over Europe. And as I said this afternoon, also in other countries than Europe, even Asian and African people understand perfectly that by defending our identities, we also implicitly defend theirs. Because our nationalism has nothing aggressive against any other people. We do not want to extend our power. We do not want to change the borders. We just want to remain free on the earth, the territory that we inherited of our ancestors to the price of enormous sacrifices. And I would conclude by telling that I read in the excellent pamphlet, one of the last pamphlets that is printed by the BNP, tyranny in Europe is nothing new, nor is resistance. But the resistance of you and your friends and of Nick Griffin is of exceptional quality. I must confess I've been a member of the European Parliament for nearly 25 years. No, don't applaud. There is no reason to congratulate or to to celebrate this. But I never met a man so brave, so courageous, so lucid as Nick and a few others. I do hope that Nick will be re-elected because he is the man, he is the statesman that Britain is in need of. But the problem is that Britain doesn't know it yet. I am quite confident that the spirit of resistance is growing together with a friendship among true nationalists from Great Britain, France, Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, Italy, Belgium, and I do hope all other countries, not for going back to war, but for peaceful relationship and intelligent cooperation among all people of Europe, faithful to the values that they inherited from their ancestors. Thank you very much.